This show is brought to you by the Email Laundry, making email safe for your customers. Visit www.theemaillaundry.com/tublog for a very special listener offer and to have your MSP's domain filtered by the Email Laundry for free.
You're listening to Tub Talk, the podcast for IT owners, with our featured conversation with Richard Tubb and Michael George of Continuum. My name is Jeff Nicholson, and this podcast is all about helping you grow your IT business. In this episode, Richard talks with Michael George, the CEO of Continuum. With more than 25 years' experience of leading high-growth software companies, Michael is a wealth of information. In this interview, Richard picks Michael's brain on how Continuum empowers managed service providers, Michael's tips on leadership, and much more. This episode was recorded in person between Richard and Michael at the Tate Museum in London. We apologise for any background noise in this episode. Richard felt the interview was so valuable that it had to be published despite it being recorded in a public place. And now, without further ado, here's Richard Tubb talking with Michael George.
Hi everybody, Richard Tubb here, and I'm sat today with Michael George, the CEO of Continuum. Now, Michael has over 25 years of experience in starting, building and leading world-class technology companies. He's served as a CEO at Continuum since 2011, and they serve thousands of managed service providers in the SMB market around the world. Michael, welcome.
Richard, thank you very much. Delighted to be here.
Now, we're in the Tate Modern today for the Continuum European Partner event. We've snuck outside to the coffee shop so you can hear the sounds of a coffee shop going on around us. Tell us a little bit about what Continuum are doing in Europe at the moment.
So we're absolutely thrilled to be here. We have over 200 of our European partners joining us on European Partner Day today. So we're thrilled about that level of engagement and commitment, and we put together a terrific agenda to bring to our partners some of the new technologies, our product roadmap, some new engagement model components to the things that we're doing in and around our partner base. So it's a full day committed to working together, listening, learning, peer interaction, and a lot of good engagement with them. Tomorrow, Richard, we have our first European Partner Advisory Council meeting. It's a half day dedicated. We have a select group of partners who are a proxy for our European partner community that are going to help us devise our roadmap for our product, for our company, for our mission, and let us know what's on their mind, what the issues are that they're facing every day, to make sure that we as an organization are aligned in developing and delivering for them exactly what they need. And there are unique aspects of the European market, the pan-European market, and just sort of all the different markets that we serve today. We're in Sydney, Australia. We're obviously in the US. We're in South Africa, and we're out throughout South America. So there are unique attributes to each of these geographies, and we want to make sure that we're addressing, the uniqueness of them.
We've got about 200 people, 200 partners here today, correct. So you've got a full room. We're at the beautiful Tate Modern in London on the banks of the River Thames. Looking around the room, looking around the attendees, there's a lot of the UK's top MSP partners there. But for people who aren't familiar with Continuum, how would you describe who Continuum are and what you do?
Yeah, so first of all, we're grateful that we do have some of the largest and the most successful MSPs in the business, and we would like to take full credit for that, and we don't and we can't. We are in this as a true partner, so we are 100% partner committed. We only sell through the channel. We do not do anything direct with the end user or the end customer. We're clear about that, and therefore our success is explicitly tied to theirs. So everything we do is in and around making our partners successful on the sales, marketing, service delivery, the engagement model. Everything that we do is really engineered and designed around that. And that's why the largest and most successful MSPs in the business are our partners, because of that very symbiotic partnership and relationship. It's not transactional. We're not a vendor in the traditional sense of the word. It's a very, very different business model. We do provide a technology platform that is what we call a vertically integrated service delivery platform. It's all the revenue generating sides of an IT services company, Richard. So everything in the remote monitoring and management, the backup and disaster recovery, and the security space, right? Those are really the three corners of the IT service delivery model today. And so we have our own unique proprietary technology. We actually acquired a company in the RMM space. It was a company called Zenith Infotech. You know it well.
Very familiar. I used to be a Zenith, Zenith as we would say here in the UK. I used to be a Zenith partner back in the day when I ran an MSP myself.
Right. So, Zenith was a founder of this whole industry, right? And really a definer of the way the industry shaped out. So we acquired the RMM property or the assets from Zenith. We went out and acquired a backup and disaster recovery company. We bought a company that was the leading provider in the web hosting world called R1Soft. They're very much a global company. In fact, less than 30% of the revenue from R1Soft even came from the United States. Most of it was in Europe. Actually, a number of pan-European web hosting providers here was really what they serve. That's the industry that R1Soft traditionally served. We still serve it under the R1 brand, but we acquired it and built our entire continuity 24/7 on top of that. So if you look at most of the world today, it's all based on StorageCraft with their snapshot engine. And in fact, Zenith's BDR was based on StorageCraft, perhaps as you recall as well. So is Datos, right? So a lot of company, eFolder, right? These are all companies that built everything around their we did not want to get caught behind that. Dato's facing that now, right, where they have to build their own snapshot engine. That's going to be very, very hard work for them. Everybody's now getting off of StorageCraft. Now the StorageCrafts declared themselves a competitor, to the channel that they used to be serving. And so we purposefully went out, made that acquisition and have launched our own BDR in that space. And we're doing largely the same in the security category, where we're acquiring properties, we're using some open source, and we have, much like our underlying value proposition being, this is really not just a technology solution. This is a combination of technology and service delivery. And so many people miss that part of the equation that they end up with bad metrics and bad economics in their business, because their highest cost of goods sold is their labor, right? Sure. Trying to hire people in these local economies is virtually impossible. So as you well know, our business model is this vertically integrated service delivery. We're doing it for the NOC, connected with the RMM. We do it for BDR. It's fully managed, so you're not getting on your hands and knees to make the BDRs work the way, an MSP is, they think the surface cost is it, but if you look at the service around it, that's where they end up going from a profitable to a non-profitable equation with that. And we're doing the same in security. Security is a combination, Richard, of great technology that's protecting your environment, some unified threat management, but also anomaly detection, and then the ability to remotely isolate and remediate. And therefore, we're engineering a SOC, a security operations center. It's based in Pune and based in Mumbai, much like the rest of our service delivery operations are. So that's how you should think of us. We're not doing things we don't have a PSA. We partner with Autotask, we partner with ConnectWise and others for that part of it. We're very maniacally focused on the revenue and growth generating aspects for our IT service partners.
Makes sense. And your IT service partners, we've mentioned there's some heavy hitters in the Tate Modern here today. But what do your typical partners look like? I mean, is Continuum a solution that's too big or too heavy for smaller partners? What does it look like?
Well, so the heritage of Zenith, as you well know, was to help the market as it was starting to go from the cottage industry it once was to being a maturing industry, was to take people that were traditionally in the break-fix business, the more traditional handwork business, and turn them into managed service providers. And there's still a fair amount of that we do, frankly, right? Where it is a completely scalable model. You can kind of step in, just add water, and all of a sudden now you've got a pretty large IT service delivery organization that's backing you as a company. So we still find ourselves helping people get into the business. But to your point, we've got the heaviest hitters in all of Europe now as part of our platform, and we've helped make them that way, right? We've helped them grow and scale and go out and have the breadth and the depth of skills, right, to provide elastic computing out there and go sign up a really, really large customer and do so with confidence, because they're now not running around trying to hire 5 people to go support it. They have the ability to onboard them, and then we give them all that scalability and all that economy of scale associated with being really big. So a lot of them started with us very small and got big, and we continue to onboard new people in the business. We're also finding a lot of people that are just running out of headroom. They might be on another tool, another RMM tool. They might be on a different backup platform, Richard. And what they're finding is that it's not that they hate those tools, they just can't grow. Their growth is dependent on their ability to go out and hire in these local markets, local IT talent. And so they're constrained more by that than they are by any of the tools or automation or anything else. And so we find a lot of them coming to us and coming to our platform because it gives them the elasticity and the ability to just very instantly go out and start to expand and grow without, putting out ads and in this very, very heavily contested IT market.
It is.
Very
it's fascinating. So I tweeted out a few days ago that I was going to interview you for the podcast, and the response that I got back was phenomenal. Lots of people with lots of questions, not only about yourself, but about Continuum as a service provider. And I think a lot of that is down to, there's always been a skills gap, a skills shortage. It's always been difficult for IT companies, MSPs, to hire good people. It's more difficult than ever at the moment, and so I think a lot of MSPs are looking and saying, what would it look like if I just got rid of the issue of the challenge of having to hire people? How are you finding MSPs in the US are finding hiring and retaining staff in compared to what you're seeing in the UK and other places in the world?
Look, it's a universal problem in all first world economies. I don't think there's anything unique in the US from what's happening here. There's certain parts of South Africa, there's certain parts in the Asian communities today where IT is so in demand, and the skills gap between those people that really have the broad set of skills to work in these increasingly complex environments, to be readily available. So the labor wage inflation is off the charts, as you know. And by the way, that's not relenting, Richard. That's not like something that's going. This isn't a Y2K problem.
Sure.
This is a skills gap, a generational issue, and it's not going away anytime soon. In fact, it's actually getting worse and worse for people. So we don't see it, relenting in any way, shape, or form. And people are being forced to work in a globally distributed service delivery model, which is what we bring to bear, right? We're bringing these third world. If you look at places like India, where things like STEM in public education has been on the rise at the same rate it's been on the decline in other first world economies. And so we tap into this incredibly rich labor environment and bring it in through that platform, bring it to bear in these first world economies. It's a perfect match of not only, you might think of it as traditional outsourcing. It's not. It's actually smart sourcing, because it's not like you give it up to us. Our IT service partners get to turn the dial up or down as to how much we do versus how much we don't do. And they take on all of the customer-facing activity, all the things that require a local presence, good interpersonal skills, and the high-value strategic work. That's what we want our partner to deliver, and that's what our partners want to deliver, right? That interface to their customer. What we're doing is all that back-end work, right? All that noisy, busy, hard to fulfill, and very hard to make an economic, sense out of it, with local skills in those local economies. So it's really a perfect marriage of, again, smart sourcing and stratifying the service delivery model, for the partner. Does that make sense?
That makes absolute sense. And I'd like to come back in a little bit to the type of work that you do for partners and maybe some of the pushbacks that you get. But I'm really intrigued by something you said earlier on in your keynote this morning, which was about the office in the Philippines. Mm-hmm. That's a new venture.
It is.
It's a wholly owned office. So this isn't outsourced, is it? This is an office that you're setting up from scratch. Would that be right?
That's correct.
Tell me more about that venture.
Yeah. So in much like India has been a outstanding resource for incredibly talented IT skills at a much more affordable rate than we're finding in these local economies. If you look in the Philippines, much like India was occupied, as you know, by the British for so many years and brought English language as a common language for that community. Manila in particular, but the Philippines in general, were occupied actually by the U.S. since the late 1800s. So English language is the foremost language across the entire country. Number one. Number two is because of their core education system, their public education system, they have a very rich IT skill base in that community, and outsourcing for IT skills and the whole business process outsourcing has become the number one industry for the Philippines. That's the number one export. So it's not like we're the first ones to go there or to be there. We're tapping into a well-structured, well-understood environment for them. There's over 1 million people there's an area called BPO Alley, literally just outside of Manila, that is all IT service companies that are doing this. So in fact, these are employees of ours. We are not outsourcing this to somebody else. We're actually building out and staging a world-class help desk operation for that community. We're doing that because oftentimes the natural English language for India is hard on the ears of our customer community, and it's not really particularly well accepted in the small to medium business market. It's much more accepted in the large enterprise, but not in the SME. And so if you listen to the English language spoken from the Philippines, it's got all the soft, attributes, and so it's a much more favorable to the ear. In fact, it would be rare if here in the UK, anywhere across the pan-European markets, if you didn't buy a product from somebody, even a consumer product in the electronics world, that when you picked up the phone and dialed 1-800 for some online help, there's a very, very good chance you were talking to somebody that's in the Philippines and you had no idea that you were. You probably knew they weren't here from the UK, but you wouldn't have, you couldn't pinpoint it by any stretch, and you wouldn't be offended by it. It's incredibly acceptable to the ear. So we're building out, we're staging it. We have over 200 people in our help desk operation today. It's grown really fast because, again, that's a well understood problem. Nobody of great hard skills around IT, soft skills around interpersonal skills, wants to sit on the phone and wait for the phone to ring to hear some angry customer complain that they can't get their password, right? I mean, this is what, they just don't want to do that, right? We don't have a labor force in these local economies that want to do that stuff, nor should they, right? They should be doing higher value strategic work around virtualization, around cloud computing, around replatforming. Those are interesting jobs, right? We're not in the business of eliminating jobs. We're just in the business of really stratifying the work. We'll do all the grunt work. We'll do all that hard stuff. That's why we're using Manila as a global help desk operation. We have one today in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, that's supporting our European partners, and we'll let people choose basically where they want to be, if they can even hear the difference between one or the other. So we're actually and this is the first effort of a broader globalization of our help desk. We will put help desk operations here in Europe over time. We're going to be putting them in Germany, places where we have language differences and need to address the Benelux, the Nordics, Germany, France, Italy. These are places that will also stage help desks in those geographies over time. And the operation that we're staging in Manila is the first effort in that.
So if I may, I'll ask, you've been CEO since 2011, and you've got offices in the US, India, Philippines upcoming, you've got staff here on the ground in the UK and Europe. How do you find managing a distributed workforce in all those different continents, across all those different time zones? A CEO, how do you manage that?
Yeah, so with a lot of air miles and a spectacular team of executives.
So you get out there quite often to actually make
I do. In fact, so we have more than 1,400 employees in the company today. We added over 250 last year. We'll add 250 to 300 net new employees in the company. And I make a personal commitment to make it around the globe and shake the hands of every employee in the company. And I do that I do that across the course of a year for sure. But toward the end of the year, between holiday celebrations, end of year, we go through we have an open book policy. We talk through quarterly meetings around our performance as a company and our growth and our strategy with the entire Continuum, team Continuum. And I make a point of getting around. It takes me about 5 weeks, and I shake the hand of every employee in the company. So it's with hard work and a lot of passion, and caring about people. They're really, Richard, when we founded the company a little more than 5 years ago, there were 2 tenets that we just felt were going to keep us true to our mission and to our objectives. And one was to really embrace our team, our employees. We focus on talent management. We bring lots of resources to them: training, education, growth, opportunity. And so we have very low retention. We have very, very high skills in our organization, and we just have some of the most talented people in the world, frankly, in this business, and we feel blessed about it. And it was very intentional. And the other is to care deeply about our partners. And in the same way, that's why our investments in and around our partner engagement. I mentioned in my keynote this morning, in 2016, we spent more than $55 million was appropriated directly to Collaborate, Continuum University, all of the partner engagement tools and resources and everything else to help our partners be successful. We figured, let's make our employees really successful and help them maximize their potential while they're here with us. And let's make our partners the most successful and help them maximize their potential as an MSP, delivering in their communities, being successful, whatever defines success for them around growth and finance and everything else. And those have been the two fundamental tenets to the business. So you're right about all those geographies. We've opened up recently in Sydney, Australia. Believe it or not, we have some engineering in the Ukraine. We have some engineering in Bolivia. We're in Houston, Texas. We acquired the leading backup provider in the world, and they happen to be in Houston, Texas. Our headquarters are in Boston. We have over 250 employees in Pittsburgh. We're truly a club. We have over 10 employees here, and we're growing our offices. We've more than doubled our operation here. We're going to continue to do that year over year, and so we really established ourselves as a truly global company. We're not a U.S. company that branched out.
Sure.
We started as a global company. I've been a CEO of other global companies and operations before, and just the way you think about that, the way you approach it, is very, very different than, again, if you were a U.S.-based company trying to, branch out and set up, other offices. Other offices are typically only sales offices. So the interaction that you get here in the UK or anywhere in Europe with any of these other American-based companies, you're only dealing with their sales entities, and that's a very limiting experience. We're not that, right? All of our everything we do is truly, global in its nature, and we're very mindful to be very respectful of local cultures, local attributes in any one of these geographies, but at the same time stitch ourselves together by a certain set of common values. You have children? Do you have children, Richard? So
2 stepchildren.
Yeah, you have 2 step. So, if you think about your own children, they're unique in their own ways, and yet they're stitched together by a certain set of common values that you and your wife, brought to bear and how you wanted to raise them. And we think about our company very much that same way. They are, each of these entities, each of these, operations that we have in all these different geographies, they have their own local cultures. They have their own, attributes and their own personalities, but they are incredibly common. Like, you wouldn't go to our office here in the UK and think for a moment it wasn't a Continuum company, and yet we let them be, their own sort of independent personality-wise. They're stitched together, and they're part of Team Continuum globally. So.
Okay, I'd like to briefly pause for a second to let you know about my new book, The IT Business Owner's Survival Guide. I'm the former owner of an IT managed service provider business myself, so I know exactly what it's like to struggle to cope with the day-to-day stresses of running an IT business. I know there are days or even weeks when you get frustrated and wonder whether it's all worth it to go it alone. I'm telling you, it doesn't have to be like that. The IT Business Owner's Survival Guide contains a collection of easy-to-digest guides and tips on how to cope with the common tasks that cause IT business owners worry and stress. If you want to learn how to save time, avoid stress, and build a successful IT business, then you don't have to do it alone. You can buy the IT Business Owner Survival Guide from Amazon or visit itbusinesssurvivalguide.com and download the first chapter for free. That's itbusinesssurvivalguide.com. 25 years in the industry. What would you say on a personal level is the one constant that still remains true today or has always been true over the last 25 years?
Yeah, isn't that true? Well, it's a great question because, first of all, I love technology. I love being in technology. I love everything about it. And I think it's, this is a self-select industry, right? You have a passion for it, you care deeply about it, and you understand that it's not just technology for technology's sake. It's really about solving an important business challenge. And when you marry those two things up and you get your head around that, that's where you can really be impactful for people's business, right? Around what we do in the IT service business around business continuity, security, protecting, allowing businesses to thrive and flourish. That IT is an asset for them, not a liability, right? That, think about how to use IT for your extreme competitive advantage. Whether you're a restaurant, whether you're a law firm, whether you're a dentist, doesn't matter, right? IT and infrastructure and technology should be your friend, and it should be your asset as a company. And so we really are very mindful of marrying those two things, together. I will say that, technology has a certain set of unique attributes to it. Oftentimes people think about technology as something that is going to eliminate jobs.
Sure.
It's going to eliminate work. It's going to automate things. And the person from CompTIA, I think, spoke a little bit about this today too, which is, in fact, it's just been just the opposite. If you look at the Industrial Revolution, if you look at the technology revolution, these are things that have created jobs.
Yeah.
It's created opportunity. It's advanced ourselves as a society, as business, whatever the underlying purpose or mission is. And so one of the constants is, across this is, it isn't just about the technology, it's about the combination of technology and people and the engagement model and all the things that we're engineered around. And that was true 25 years ago when I entered the industry, and it'll be true, in the next 25 years if the industry will have me long enough. And it's certainly, very true today. And we have married those things up, I think, very, very effectively, to the benefit of our partner community. And the other is that the paradox of high technology has always been a sensation that there's an incentive to wait. That people believe that if I wait, then things will get better and they'll get cheaper. And in the world of pure technology, that's fundamentally true. But the opposite is true in the IT world today, because waiting in a world where complexity and the amount of service delivery that's required in the complexity of these environments is requiring more and more people and skills to be applied to it. And as you and I just talked about, wage inflation is going up, not going down. So there isn't an incentive to wait. Things aren't getting better and cheaper, things are actually getting more complex, and they're getting more expensive to serve and solve. And so there really is an incentive to move very, very quickly. This is true for all the way out to the end. We always think about the end customer first, our partners' customers first. And we say, what is it about their IT environment? And there is no benefit to waiting. It's just the opposite. They need to move quickly. They need to get, they need to make investments. They need to get, secure IT infrastructure in place. They need to have high bandwidth and there's no incentive to wait there. And then for our partners, there's no incentive to wait either. Because again, if they're intellectually honest with themselves and they look at their cost of goods sold, it'll stare them right back in the face that their labor is the most expensive part of cost of goods sold in an IT service company. And in our model, we give you the opportunity to have a fixed cost with that and take the labor component, not completely out, but largely out of your economics, and put it in on a fixed cost basis. But for the piece that remains, cost is going up, environments are more and more complex, And the fight for talent is getting worse, not getting better. So this is something you asked about. What are some of the macro trends? What are some of the things I've seen over the last 25 years? And frankly, I think we're going to be facing these same challenges 25 years from now. They'll be in a slightly different flavor or boxed in some other, packaged up in some other form. But these will be the underlying issues.
There's a lot to be learned from checking out history. So we talked about constants. What's the most surprising thing for you personally since being CEO?
Yeah. So about the industry specifically?
It could be anything. So I guess about your role, what you expected from the job, or about the industry.
Yeah. So, I would say that one of the most, and I would say it's a surprise, not because I thought a different way and it's come out differently, but because I never really thought about the enjoyment and the pleasure I would get from the engagement I find with the small business owners that we do business with. If you look at the MSP industry, it's a cottage industry, that's maturing and evolving and growing up. And I spend as much time as I can in the field with our partners and listening and learning and trying to understand what their challenges are so we can go deliver on them. And I have found, just as opposed to, the enterprise world is a little more sterile. It's a little more removed, right? Where you're dealing with a large corporation and the business, the relationship is purely a professional one. And my personal, you asked what surprised me. My personal engagement with this industry has been a delightful surprise. That not that I didn't think it was otherwise. I just never had an opportunity to travel around the globe, meet with small business owners, because our MSPs are largely small business owners, have the level of personal and professional engagement with them, that I've been able to. And also just to be helpful. And look, we're not a philanthropic entity, so I don't want to mislead you, but there is an altruistic purpose for what we do. And for me to go around the world and to have partners come up to me and tell me how we've changed their lives, how we've helped them with their core economics, how we've helped them be successful, how they started with this little business and they got big and they're handing it down to the next generation, that their children are taking over the business. I mean, think about how rewarding that is, to have that kind, as opposed to IBM telling me that we made that they just made another $10 million. Who cares, right? I mean, really to have the kind of personal impact on so many of these small businesses. And you had your own, you were acquired as an MSP. You had your own successful outcome, and it's allowed you to reinvent your new career.
Yeah, in what I enjoy doing. Yeah.
In what you love doing, right? And you've got a lot of knowledge and you bring a lot of value into the marketplace, and you were a partner of ours, and so we helped enable that. It's a very altruistic but a very, very rewarding and frankly a little bit of an unexpected reward for my job.
I like it. So based on what you've seen of the evolving MSP market, what would you say to MSPs listening who serve the SMB market? What should they be really aware of over the next 18 months?
So there's two things. The idea of changing your business model in and around the new way of delivering services to your client. It's more, this is not a transactional business, as I said. You really have to think about reorganizing the way you go to market, reorganizing the way you deliver services to your client. And, CompTIA spoke about the whole skills gap issue. Our whole business model is in and around helping companies, again, not buy our product and redeploy it, but changing the fundamental business model within their core business. And so that's number one. And I encourage everybody to take a step back, take a deep breath, pay attention to these macro dynamics that are taking place in our market, so that you understand, like, why am I challenged? Why is it so hard to find people? Why is it so hard to onboard people? Why do I brought on that person and they've got a couple of certifications and I give them a couple more certificates and then they leave me and they go to work, because they found some company, they got a couple £1,000 or a couple €1,000 more. That's, a couple, kilometers closer to home, and they left, right? Like, why is the labor such a problem for me? And if you take a step back from that issue, that skills gap issue, and you understand the macroeconomics of it, you'll start to solve for that very, very differently. And that's where our ability, our empowering our partners to shift their business model is so important. So that's number one. And number two is the sharp edge of the selling sword for our partner community is going to be in and around security. Now, if you talk to a small business owner 2 years ago and you asked them about security, they'd tell you it's a nuisance, right? We had a little bit of a problem, or I have a neighbor, or I went to an industry conference and somebody got up and told this horrific story, about what happened. And so it's all around me, for sure, right? So it's top of mind, but now it is a existential threat to small businesses, because cyber criminals have found ways to exploit small businesses. They find them very vulnerable because small businesses have not been able to invest in the real, commercial grade security products, right, for security defense. So they're the most vulnerable. The SMB is the most vulnerable, number one. And number two is that cyber criminals have figured out through ransomware and crypto locker and all of these other methods, right, phishing and wire transfer, they're using all these things and exploiting the SME. And so it's going to be the sharp edge of the selling sword for our partner base, which we love, right? And because it gives them a reason to go out and go break into new geographies and go break into clients that they've never been able to do, because they're going to have security. And it isn't just the technology. It isn't because they dropped down some security tool and they've launched it. Because to really solve the security issue, it's a combination of technology, remediation, which means people, and training. So our partners are going to be fortified with some tools that we're going to give them. That'll be unified threat management, anomaly detection, and all of those pieces. Remediation, because much like we have a network operations center, we will have a security operations center, which we're in the process of staging now. That'll give us the ability to right? Security is all about instant response. You have to be right on top of it. So it's a 24/7, 365 issue. We're going to be staring in dark rooms at monitors all day and night, for everybody's environments to do anomaly detection and have the ability to instantaneously go in, isolate a problem, and remediate it out. So technology, remediation, and then the third element is training, where our IT service partners are going to be able to go in and provide user training to the end customer around, don't let people come in with thumb drives. And when people get links that say, hey, click on me, don't do it, right? I mean, it seems basic for us, in the technology
we live
world.
In the industry, yeah.
We live in the industry. But, for the person in the law firm, for the person in the dentist's office, for the person in the insurance brokerage, they're not, they're not used to that, right? They're only dealing in the consumer world. And so, so training is going to be an important element to it. So we're giving our partners the new sharp edge of the selling sword to allow them to go into clients they've always wanted to win over and go win them over, because they're going to have something that's unique and differentiated for them that none of the other MSPs are going to have unless they're using our platform.
So we're sat in the Tate Modern, and again, apologies for the noise here, but we're in central London, so this is just about as quiet as it gets anywhere, and I really wanted to grab this time with you. You're clearly a man of good taste, because you're drinking an Earl Grey tea here. What would you say? What would you say is the best decision that you've ever made?
Boy, that's a hard.
I'm not here to ask the easy questions.
Hopefully, my wife's listening, because it would be to have asked her to marry me.
Let me narrow it down then a bit. So, what's the best decision you've ever made professionally?
Yeah. So we spent a lot of time looking, and you mentioned Zenith as the forebearer to this industry, and we spent a lot of time looking at all the different vendors in this space, because Zenith and Kaseya were really the two companies that started the MSP industry, as you recall. But then, some other companies emerged out of there, GFI, which is now LogicNow, as you know, and Enable. There are companies in the backup and disaster recovery space, Autotask. There's all these other companies that emerged that I feel good about, the cornerstone of our company being one of the godfathers, if you will, to this industry. And before we made the acquisition, we looked at all these companies. They all traded. If you think about it for a moment, in the time frame, we acquired the Zenith assets in September of 2011, and shortly after that took place, Kaseya ended up getting acquired. StorageCraft's now been acquired, right? Autotask, all these companies got acquired. and Logic Now, of course, now owned by SolarWinds and all this stuff. And so we looked at all these companies, and from the perch of a private equity firm. I was doing due diligence for Summit Partners based right here in London, right? Off of Old Burlington Road, if you know, they're in the Queensboro building. And so we were doing a lot of research in and around this space. And a lot of people said they thought that technology was going to automate things, and if you look at it, everybody's talking about automation nation, all this stuff. But what they didn't understand that we really got our heads around was that the real problem wasn't around automation. We automate just as well as anybody does. Nobody's building tools or technology or anything any better than we are. The real problem to solve for our partners was in and around labor. And we had the pundits, we had the research analysts, everybody telling us that the cloud was going to come in and the cloud was going to simplify this world, and the cloud was going to eradicate the need for no servers are going to be on premise anywhere with any of these clients inside of 3 years. Literally people were telling us, like, don't do it. Don't go and don't buy into this space. Don't buy into this category. And we disagreed. And our research told us something very, very different. And our research, we got focused on the skills gap. We got focused on when we went around and interviewed the community, not under the guise of Zenith, not under the guise of Kaseya, not under anything else. We just went around as independent, and we sat with MSPs just like you, and we said, Richard, don't let me tell you about my product. Why don't you tell me about your challenges? Why don't you tell me what your problems are? What's prohibiting you from growing? What's prohibiting you from being successful? What's prohibiting you from increasing your profitability and all that stuff? And in every single instance, the common denominator was labor. The common denominator, the common challenge across the entire industry, not just in the US, not just here in Europe, but around the world and all these first world economies, was the skills gap. And so we said, that's the problem to solve. That's the challenge for our partners, and therefore everything we do, from the moment we made the acquisition, every investment dollar we've ever made was in and around this whole service delivery engagement model, for the partner community. That was the problem we were going to just get maniacally focused on solving flawlessly for our partner. And so if you said, what's the best professional decision we ever made? It was to go against what all the research analysts told us. Yep. To go against, everybody telling us, no, technology is going to solve that problem. Technology didn't solve that problem, and it's not. The problem's gotten a lot worse, as for people. And you go out there and talk to any one of these IT service companies, they'll tell you the number one challenge they have is in and around labor, and that's the number one challenge that so that was the best decision we ever made.
Good decision.
I agree.
In terms of what you've just said about going out and asking customers, what do you want? I'm intrigued, and I don't know whether you would agree with this, Michael, or not, but a lot of vendors that I see push products out and then go to their clients and say, hey, you need this. And the clients go, not really. Mm-hmm. I don't really see a pain for that. Why do you think more vendors don't ask their MSP customers what they actually need, what their problems are?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, I think we're on the leading edge of something that a lot of companies are going to need to move to, and they're going to need to move too quickly. If you look at any of them, they are truly vendors, right? They're very transactional. You can go online to somebody's store and buy their BDR, and they'll ship it to and all that stuff. I think the sands underneath their feet are changing very, very quickly. They already have. I told you that the right now the lion's share of our business are from people that are coming from these vendors that are saying, I'm fine with their tool, I'm fine with their BDR, I'm fine, with all that stuff, but they don't solve my real problem, my real challenge. And I need your engagement model. I need it from the service delivery side, and I need it from the go-to-market side. I need help with marketing. I need help with sales. I need help with education. I need help with training. I need all that stuff. So we have built our whole business around that. I think that, you said, why haven't more of them gotten to it? I think they're going to have to move very, very quickly, to this model. And the idea of a partnership, it's more than a word, right? You heard how we, talk about, go talk to our partners and they'll tell you, like, we are fully engaged and fully immersed. It's part of our casting our lot with our partner community, which is if you're not successful, we're not selling you something. You don't sign up for a year's contract with us. You're not buying 1,000 agents for some set number of dollars. You can put on our technology and take us off on a day-to-day basis. So think about that. We have to earn our partners' business every day. We give them the ability to put us, commission us and decommission us in and out of their environments every day. You don't have to make a commitment. You don't have to make a payment up front. You don't have to do any of that stuff. It's a utilization-based model that's based on your success. So you go out, you engage us, you deploy us, and at the end of the month, we bill you on what you've used. We don't bill you on what you didn't use. You didn't buy 1,000. You don't have a 3-year commitment to us or any of that. And so I think we're just ahead of the curve. I think all of the companies in our space are going to need to move to that very, very quickly. And if they don't, frankly, I think they're just going to simply fail. I think the transactional sell you something, go use my technology world is over.
What about partners who say their customers would never accept an outsourced service? And I know there's plenty that get in touch with me. As I said, when I tweeted out that I was going to be interviewing you, there was a lot of interest from people in yourself and the Continuum service. But equally, there's a lot of people that I speak to on a day-to-day basis who say, my customers would never accept outsourced services. How do you answer those partners?
Well, they're the same places where the customer's saying, no, don't outsource, and will you lower my rates? and you look at them and you say, they're saying, I want better technology, I want more and better of your services, and I want it to be cheaper. And you go, well, I'm not sure. I don't know that any of our MSPs are in the business of subsidizing their customers, right, with those economics. So the answer is it doesn't work. It doesn't work anymore. We do live in a truly global economy, and as long as it's a company that was engineered from the ground up to bring the global economics of an incredibly skilled, gifted labor force into these local markets and be able to deliver it in a way that's not visible to the client. You have to remember that our global service team never talks to the client. The client wouldn't even know it's outsourced. The only reason that they would ever think, they'd sit there and they go, wow, your guys were unbelievable because we had this issue in the middle of the night and whatever, and it got resolved, and Richard, like, how are you guys? You guys are getting any sleep, right? Because you got to remember, IT is episodic. IT problems happen when they happen. They don't happen when you happen to be in the office.
Sure.
And so the fact that we give you a 24/7, 365 global workforce at an economic, to go deliver, you can't compete. You just simply are not going to be able to compete, without the ability to go do that. So we don't find the resistance. You said before, is there a difference between either sort of the U.S. and the European? I think that certain geographies have a different appetite for this concept. We're in Sydney, Australia. And Australia is a geography that has outsourced every part of their economy since the day they ever got started. And so they're completely used to it. In fact, there's nothing's made in Australia, literally. Nothing other than maybe a little kangaroo hide and a boomerang. But other than that, it's not a GDP generating economy that has been independent or self-sufficient. They've always dependent on some level of outsourcing. So their appetite to do it is phenomenal, right? They're just very, very, they're used to it. They're smart. They're engaging in this model really quickly and ramping up, incredibly fast. If you look in the U.S., the U.S. has been a global economy for a long time, and the large enterprise has been outsourcing and smart sourcing to the IT labor markets like India. If you look at most enterprise businesses today, there isn't a company, HP, IBM, CA, go to Madras or Chennai or Bangalore or Mumbai, India, and the IT sector is littered with companies that are based here in the US, in the UK, in Europe, in the US. So the US market is also quite familiar with a truly global outsourced market, right? We're used to buying technology, if you will. It might have a made in America label on it. It might have a made in the UK or made in Finland label on it. But most of that, you go up into the Nordics where all the cell businesses, right? Nokia and all these great companies are up there. But if you look at their labor force, they're not sitting in Helsinki.
Yeah.
they're in India. And so we can all put a, made in the UK brand on it all we want. But the fact is if you're not tapping into this global economy, then I'm afraid it's going to be very, very, very difficult for people to go compete. The enterprise has been doing it for a long time, and we now make it very consumable for the SME, right? That's what we're doing, is we're giving you the economy of scale. It's very hard for any MSP to go out and go try to build a NOC in India. Think about that, right? Or a help desk in Manila. I mean, it'd be very, very difficult for anybody to do that. So we did that. We have all the infrastructure, we have all the automation, we have all the personalization and all of that. It's completely invisible to the client. Your client, the MSP's client, they have no idea that this is being done. They have no idea. We don't, we have local data centers, so we're here in the UK, we're on Europe, we're using the IBM cloud as our data repository, so we have global presence with data centers around the world instantly, as a result of that. We don't have to go stage them and go build them. You don't have to expatriatize, your data or anything like that. None of it leaves any of the geographies that we're in. And again, the fact that it's a global service delivery entity is completely invisible to the client. They'd never know it. And some of our clients, some of our partners, they declare it and some of them don't. And it's completely invisible to them anyway.
Interesting. I'm very conscious of your time. I'm dominating your time here, in fact. We've got 200 partners upstairs that would probably love to be having this conversation as well. I can't leave the conversation without speaking about, you're also the founder of the Continuum Veterans Foundation. Tell us a bit about what that is.
Yeah, so look, I think all successful companies need a purpose, beyond just sort of the economics of making it a successful business. We've been very fortunate. We've been a very successful company, and we wanted to have a philanthropic cause. I think lots of causes are really, there's so many causes out there, as you know, that are all so deserving. But we decided to kind of put all of our wood behind a particular arrow. As you know, as part of the NATO, pact and everything else. We have a world that has military risks and everything else in it. And we just feel very grateful for the independence and the freedom that we have in our free worlds and our free, our free democracies that we have here in the UK, throughout Europe, really, and throughout the US. And so we feel blessed by that. We just decided to get behind veteran causes. These are people that have served in the military, in NATO, in the U.S. Armed Forces in any way. And so we started this philanthropic entity. It is truly it's independent from the entity Continuum.
Sure.
It is a truly independent nonprofit, and we help transition veterans into IT jobs. If you think about a military deployment today, a lot of our brave young men and women are going out, and very few of them are learning how to shoot guns. Most of them are doing reconnaissance, laying cable, dealing with communications, infrastructure, all of those things. And so as they're coming back here into Europe, into the UK, into the US, and in any part of the world, when they're coming back, they're not trained on Microsoft 2012. And so we're helping transition them by providing education and training. We provide the funding for it. We don't actually do the hiring, and we don't do the training. We fund entities that do it, and we do it throughout Europe. We do it throughout the U.S. And we'll fund any entity. Our foundation will fund any entity that's helping veterans come back and trying to transition into civilian jobs, principally in IT, to try to help the labor, economy in those local markets too, right? So we feel like we're serving. I mean, it really is truly philanthropic in every way, but it also is helping serve our industry by providing these absolutely terrifically skilled people and putting them into the IT community.
That's fantastic. Really good.
Yeah, thank you for asking about that. It's really
it was something
important
that jumped out, and I suspected it was something that you'd be eager to tell people about. So yeah. So our time together is coming to an end. I've got to let you get back to that room of 200 people. Before we go, what's next for Continuum in the UK and Europe?
Yeah, so security is the number one focus for us. We're launching a product toward the end of this year. We know that security also has certain regional attributes. We don't expect that, we have partner advisory councils that are in different parts of the world. We're meeting tomorrow with our European Partner Advisory Council, and we help them shape our roadmap. We have them tell us what are the issues. And we might be getting infiltration from certain ransomwares or certain kinds of different challenges and problems, and we want to listen to it, pay attention to it, and have them help shape and form our roadmap. So I'd be better informed at the end of tomorrow than I'll be today, because all I have today for you is the roadmap that's been formed by that Partner Advisory Council before. It's an ongoing process, by the way. We meet with the European Partner Council every quarter. We're in technology. The stuff moves fast. The issues move quickly, right? We're not in the glacier business or dinosaurs. We're in high technology, and so we want to stay on the edge of it. We want to make sure that we're addressing the needs of our partner community, whatever they may be, and we know that security is the topic, Richard. But now we're going to get down to the specifics, like what are the problems, how do you need to address them, and all of that. So we're going to hear more about what are the technologies, what are the tools, what are the issues that they face, and what are the things that they need to go bring to their market, and we're really excited about that.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Michael. Thank you for the peppermint tea and the conversation, and thank you for hosting us here at the Tate Modern. It's a beautiful venue, and I've really enjoyed spending time with Continuum today. So
it's really a pleasure.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Thanks for listening to Tub Talk, the podcast for IT business owners. You can find the show notes and bonus content for this interview, along with dozens of other interviews with IT business leaders, over at www.tubblog.co.uk. If you enjoyed this podcast, then we'd really appreciate you rating and reviewing the show over at iTunes. Every review helps us reach new listeners and helps raise the bar for success in the IT industry. In our next episode, Richard speaks with another of the senior management team at Continuum, Chief Revenue Officer Bob Kosis. Thanks for listening, and I'll speak with you next episode. Have a great day.
Okay, I'd like to give a shout out to our sponsors, the Email Laundry. The Email Laundry combines security services with your customer's preferred email service to give them a truly enterprise-worthy email system. Well, what does that mean? Well, as an IT business, whether your customers are using Office 365, hosted Exchange, an on-site Exchange server, or any other type of email solution, cloud-based email security from the Email Laundry is a neat and effective solution for your customer. It will block spam and virus email with an impressive catch rate. Put simply, when your customer's email server is protected behind the Email Laundry, they'll thank you for the security it offers them. Now, the Email Laundry are offering free email security for your own domain to all listeners to this podcast. All you have to do is to sign up for a free partner account through the special listener URL www.theemaillaundry.com/tublog. Use that link to have your own domain filtered for free for 1 year. And there's more to this special offer. If you bring on board 100 paying mailboxes during your first 6 months, the Email Laundry will give you your own domain for free for another 12 months. So that means 2 years of the Email Laundry service for your own domain for free. Sign up for the Email Laundry now using the special listener offer at www.theemaillaundry.com/tublog. Hey team, this is Richard again. Just one more thing before you take off, and that is MSP Insights. Now, every Tuesday, I share my thoughts on the business of IT with you, the managed service community. Thousands of managed service providers already subscribe to MSP Insights. It's easy to sign up, easy to cancel. MSP Insights is basically a short email from me every Tuesday without fail with advice on growing your IT business, plus cool resources I found, discovered, or started exploring that week. It's kind of like my diary of cool things, and often includes articles or books I've read, tools I've discovered, and events I think you'd be interested in, often sent to me by my friends and Tub Talk podcast guests. So, if that sounds fun, a short tiny bite of MSP goodness every Tuesday, and you'd like to try it out, just go to go.tub.co/Tuesday. That's go.tub.co/Tuesday. Drop in your email and you'll get the very next one. Thanks for listening.